Right, something's gone amiss here. I've got two sets of audio, so I've made an ass of something as part of the intro.
Okay.
Why is that? Why?
I can hear the great Fall Guys music.
Yeah. Why can I hear myself? Why can I hear myself? Ah, there it is. You know what it is? I had the tweet open. Apologies, everyone. This is professional podcasting at its finest. I had the tweet open that had the YouTube stream, and the YouTube video and the tweet started. Righty, let me get rid of that. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to what feels like the first show that we've done in a bloody good long time. I will mute the Fall Guys music there as well. Apologies. This is what happens when Flap isn't available. It all goes to shit. Yeah, it feels like it's been a little while since we've done a bit of a podcast. Probably should say apologies for Thursday. We did, unfortunately, have a show planned. We had topics in, and then very last minute, a couple of us either fell foul to illness or to work, and we had to cancel. So apologies. But we did want to bring you a show this week, so we thought we'd do something a little bit more relaxed for a Sunday morning. So we're not going to do anything too topical. We were discussing the green room there anyway. This week's been, let's say, a little bit shit when it comes to news. On that, don't be a dick, everyone, please, because that's it's been a bit of a shit stain on the community this past week, and we don't want to focus too much on the negativity. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time today chatting about what we've been playing, what we're enjoying, what we're excited for. So I guess without further ado, I'll introduce the rest of the panel. Obviously with no Flap today, unfortunately he is a little tied up with work, but we do have 3/4 of GPG with us today. So first of all, good morning, Pucks.
Good morning, Scott. Good morning, chat. How are you doing? You feeling okay? I know you're not too well, but you sound like you're doing very well at the moment. So
yeah, I've been better, mate. Thankfully, I'm on the mend. I will apologise for any sniffing and things like that. I will try to beat when I've got it, but the show must go on, as they say in show business, mate.
Of course.
Have you been well though, Pucks?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. I've been doing a lot of gaming recently, actually, in amongst all the time. Any kind of free time I can during the week, because my partner works quite late. So anytime after I finish work, I can jump straight on, and I've got this massive backlog, and I'm juggling about 5 or 6 different games on the go, it feels like. So I've definitely got a good few things to talk about, I believe. So no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to just having a nice, relaxed show today and just talking games with all of you.
Very nice. And last but certainly not least, we've got the man who recently just got a promotion at work. So I'm sure everyone will pass on the congratulations to Luke for that. But good morning, Luke. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, morning. Very well. Thank you very much. I've got my coffee here somewhere in the frame. Yeah. There we go. There it is.
There it is. Lovely mug, mate. Lovely colour.
Yeah, lovely colour. Yeah, bright, just like me. Yeah. No, I've also been playing quite a bit recently, actually, more than usual, which has been nice. I think we're still in that lull of game releases, so I've been catching up on a lot of stuff and playing lots of different bits and pieces. So yeah, I'm not struck by illness, which is good because everybody seems to be. Not just you, Scott. Everybody around me seems to be dropping as well. So yeah, let's hope we'll get through the show and we'll have a fun one, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Normally we do these for about an hour, but I don't really have too much of a time limit this morning, so we can just chat as long as we need to, depending on what your guys' schedule is like. I've actually got the week off work next week, so I'm planning on playing a lot of work. Nothing really planned. We've got a couple of trips. We'll probably end up going to the lakes, things like that, but otherwise I've got pretty much a free week, so really looking forward to that. Nice. Actually, but all it meant is that Thursday and Friday when I was ill were just hell at work, because those last few days before you go on holiday they're always busy. So yeah, I had one of them. So yeah, I guess I'll kick things off with what we've got on the screen at the moment here, which is a little bit of Fall Guys that I recorded yesterday. Not my finest footage, I will admit, for anyone that's paying attention, but I've been playing a lot of Fall Guys recently. I bought it a couple of weeks before it was announced for Xbox, actually, and then obviously it was released just at the end of June. I think it was like the 20th, 21st. It came out for Xbox and Switch, and it was free to play. Have you guys been checking out any Fall Guys recently?
Yeah, I have personally. I actually made a mistake. So what I didn't realize was the fact that you had to sign into your primary platform first before you then signed into other platforms. If you understand what I mean, for your progress to carry on. So I bought this game on Steam when it first came out, and I've played a lot of Fall Guys in that time, or had done at least. But then I thought, I don't know. But I've not played it on PC since the whole Epic integration and that kind of stuff.
Had you had to have played it on PC since the Epic integration?
Or at least sign in, yes. You have to at least sign in and have your Epic account linked before signing into other platforms for that progression to be the main one and then for everything to carry over. But what I found annoying was that when I did boot it up on Xbox, it doesn't tell you that and then give you the option to not continue. It just kind of went ahead and went, oh, this is now your primary platform. If this is a mistake, contact player support. And it was like, oh, Christ. Okay.
Oh, that sucks.
So, it wasn't too difficult. Once you found the thing on the website, it was okay. You have to punch in a code that was on, like, each player has their own unique ID in the game, which you find through the settings menu or something. So you kind of punch that in. But it still took a couple of days to get a response through for them to then say, oh, we've changed your primary account to Steam. But what I thought was also bizarre is that you can only do it once in your lifetime. Per player, you can only transfer accounts once, and that is it. And I thought that was like, well, one, I didn't really... it kind of makes sense because why would you constantly want to swap platforms? But the other part of it was like, well, why just the once? Probably just to take the load off them, I guess. But outside of all that, I appreciate I'm just... rambling a little bit, but no, since I got that sorted out, I've been jumping onto Xbox, which I thought was quite cool. I did actually try the game on Switch as well, which I was actually a lot less impressed by, if I'm perfectly honest. I didn't, I'm not expecting perfect performance necessarily, but given the type of game that is, and it's not graphically intensive, there's not an awful lot going on. Yes, there's a high enough player count, but I would have thought that the Switch should have been man enough to handle it at least, but the animation playback for other players is like
it's shocking, isn't it?
Ridiculously low. Yeah.
I think you can see that in this sometimes. Like if you notice players in the distance, like they're probably at like 4 frames a second. So this is PC footage. Obviously, it's not all cranked. But I have noticed that a few times. So if you look at someone in the distance when you're way behind, like the frame rate on those guys is so low.
Yeah. On Switch, it's even worse because. So on PC, you're fine because you're running at usually, at least 60, if not above. The Switch version is 30 FPS. So, and I think people in front of you or around you run at about either half or quarter frame. So it's like 15 FPS that people are running at. So it looks terrible. It looks like really bad. You know, like
even
on Halo.
People close by.
Yeah, even people close by. Like Halo 5 used to do this. So it was criticized a bit at launch, I think, for doing this, where enemies would be half frame or something like that. But even then, I think they were still running at about 30 FPS. So it did look jarring, but it still looked okay. On the Switch version, because the base frame is 30, it just looks terrible. Like it looks. I was in Pux's boat, so. I got this back at launch a couple of years ago, and I still play it from time to time. I really enjoy it on Steam. And I thought, okay, well, I'm probably not going to pick it up for like PS5 or Xbox because why would I? But I will go and download the Switch version because that's just like a fun thing to have. And yeah, I was not impressed by it, really, from a technical perspective.
That's a shame.
I think it must be very CPU demanding, which is probably why it runs at such a low frame rate. But yeah, I did win a crown on my very first game on it though, on the Switch. So
nice.
I was pretty happy with that.
Does it have crossplay? On the Switch with everything else.
Yeah, I believe so.
Enabled by default, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah. So
have you been playing on any Steam Deck at all, Luke?
No, because unfortunately it's not supported on Steam Deck because it uses
because it's
Denuvo.
That's right. Yeah. That's a shame. I think that's one of the biggest
real shame.
Maybe issues with the Steam Deck. Actually, is the do you have it, mate? The shorts just to show it off. Have you got it close by?
Oh, I do. I do. I've come
Come on,
prepared.
let's show that because
this is one
if
I made
Indy
earlier.
joins us at any point this morning, I want him to know
So
what you've got.
there we go.
There we go.
Oh, looks cool. Are you still waiting
Very
to get
nice.
yours, Scott, or did you cancel your pre-order in the end? Or?
No, but my pre-order's like after October 2022, mate. So I'm in one of the later batches.
Well, we're just over halfway across the year now, so hopefully it doesn't feel like it's too far away.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I know a few people that have got their Q3 pre-order emails or order emails, which is cool because I know they've recently spoke about like doubling their production, which is nice. Hopefully that means people get a little sooner. But mine still says after Q3 or after October 2022, so I'll still waiting a while. I guess that is one of the bigger shames because if you wanted to play a lot of online games, they're not supported due to things like anti-cheat and things like that, are they? So
I didn't realize that was a limitation on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, apparently it's a bit of a pain to get that stuff working, a real pain. So a lot of developers are just not doing it, which is a shame.
Because it docks performance or something? Or
I think it's a mixture of it can impact performance because Denuvo can do that anyway. Yeah. I think the bigger issue is there's some sort of compatibility layer issue between Proton and Denuvo. Yeah. It just doesn't like it at all. So it would take a lot of work. There are, for example, I don't know what Apex uses as its anti-cheat, but that works perfectly on the Steam Deck.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that works absolutely fine. But then, like Destiny uses Denuvo, you just can't use Destiny at all. Fall Guys is the same. So whatever Apex is using is really, really good. I wouldn't recommend playing Apex on a handheld for a competitive experience, but it works really well. So yeah,
it's a shame because this game would be perfect for the Steam Deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Switch as well, but as you said, like I know this isn't like obviously a competitive game, but genuinely, and you can criticize me for this if you like, guys, but I don't like playing games on my Switch because, first of all, I think the hardware, I've said this before, I don't think it's particularly comfortable to hold. And I think the Steam Deck, from what I've seen, just feels or looks to be at least a lot more ergonomic. And secondly, the performance, when you go from like a Series X to the Switch, it is actually a little jarring. So like I only play kind of like Mario, Zelda, like the first party games on the Switch. So I think this game would be perfect for it. So that's a bit of a shame. Hopefully they can fix it.
Part of me was going to say that I would hope that they would try to optimize further for Switch and things like that, but as you can probably guess, I don't think that the Switch is going to be their top priority. So I imagine they'll probably just leave it at 30 FPS and just leave it at that, perhaps. I'd like to believe that they'd optimize it, of course, but I just don't think they're going to put... Because they're not a massive team anyway, are they? So I can't see them prioritizing this over the other platforms, I guess. Or they could just...
I guess it depends on how big it is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
we saw when the game launched, the servers completely shit the bed. It didn't work pretty much.
They reached 20 million players or something in the first 48 hours, was it? Since going free to play, was that right? Or something like that?
Yeah, I think I read that. Yeah, so it's obviously been good for them to go free to play.
So I do wonder though how long. Like I know it's going to drop obviously at some point, but I think when Fall Guys first came out, I don't know if you experienced this, Luke, but a lot of people after playing it for a couple of hours or whatever, because there was not that many different modes at that time, so a lot of people dropped off really quick because it just got so repetitive. But since then, obviously playing it now, it's got all these different extra modes, which I have not played because I didn't touch it for a long time. So it's definitely it's got more replayability now. But when it first came out, like player base just tanked after about a day or two.
Yeah, I think I was in the same boat. So I think it did really well when it came out, and it has a really good consistent kind of hardcore player base, which it's always had. I played it a lot for a couple of months when it came out, and then like you, I kind of dropped it because once you'd got past playing the same stage like 100 times, it was getting a bit boring. And also they had the bloody horrible team games in the middle of the crown runs, which pissed me off to no end. And then I left it for... and that's not because I don't like playing with other people, by the way. That's solely because I just don't think it works when you... Like, you're beholden on getting a crown sometimes on other people, which I think is crap. But anyway, and then I left it for about 7 months or 8 months and came back to it. Now it's kind of blown away actually by how much they put in the game in terms of new stages and stuff. So there's so much variation in it now that I think people will stick to it. It's hugely free to play helps. It's hugely successful, so I'm really pleased. And obviously now the developer has an unlimited source of money, given they've been acquired by Epic anyway. So it's a cool game. I really like it. I'm really glad it's taken so long to come to Xbox and PlayStation and stuff. So I'm really glad now that it's there. And obviously, judging by the reaction to it, like people who haven't played it before love it. They really love it. And that's just going to boost the player base even more. Not that time, Scott. Next time.
No. Yeah, see, right. I'm about to quit out here. That one wasn't good. Yeah, this wasn't my finest. No, I was just eliminated that time. So that round, one with the fan in the middle. Normally that round lasts about 4 seconds. But that one actually lasted a little longer, and it was the first time I'd even been caught by the fan. I was like, "Oh shit, there's a fan trying to blow you off," because normally people get knocked off by the obstacles. So, so I'm really enjoying it. It's just fun, It's kind of like you can't take it too seriously. It's there's so much bullshit in the game, but like you laugh when it happens. So it's a lot of fun. I'm glad it's finally come to Xbox. Like you say, look, I think it had like a year's delay almost. I'm pretty sure it was originally due to come last summer. And it didn't come until June this year, which is a bit of a shame because I was really looking forward to it then. My concern was, the ship will have sailed because of the delay. But obviously going free to play was obviously a smart move, and that certainly doesn't appear to be the case. So. Cool. Pucks, you mentioned you've been playing a lot of new stuff recently. I think you mentioned you recently upgraded to one of the higher tiers of PS Plus, didn't you?
I have, yeah. I went from not ever being a PlayStation Plus subscriber, because I never played online games on my PlayStation before, to going straight for premium, at the very least, so I could experiment with the PS1 and PS2 stuff. I wanted to try some of the PS3 streaming, just to kind of see what it was like. And I've also had a good opportunity now to test the multitude of PS4 games which are on the platform as well. And I've been having a whale of a time. I think one of the first things I did install, and it's at the top of the list as well on the popularity chart, is the Spider-Man Miles Morales, which, passed me by. It's one of those ones where I wasn't willing to fork out 70 quid for it when it first came out. But since being on the platform, I thought, $13.50, I'll happily give it a go. I fell in love with it immediately. I think it's a fantastic game. And I don't know about you guys, but if you have played the first one as well, I much preferred the second one to the first one. I liked the fact that I liked the story being shorter. Like when I thought back about the first Spider-Man, as much as I loved it, part of me remembers when I was playing it at the time, kind of felt that there was a point when I felt like it should have ended, but then it didn't end. And then the story, then something else happened. I can't fully remember what, but then the story went on for like an extra 5 hours or something. And I think, from what I remember at least, I remember feeling that, it's going on even longer now. But Miles Morales, I think, was a perfect length. And I love the character Miles Morales as well. I'm aware of the character, but I don't read much of the comics or things like that. So I don't know an awful lot. But even just playing the game, I think Miles Morales has just got so much more likability. He's got a better personality, I think. I think he's less plain than original Peter Parker. Not to say I don't like him. I just think that Miles Morales has this different edge to him, which I really like. And I think the story plays that really well as well. And this is going to sound odd, I guess, but I actually really liked how the endgame credits, they literally did it like a standard Marvel film, when it's got like these really cool cinematic shots and it's got the music playing, and it was brilliant. I imagine you have, Luke, played Miles Morales?
Yeah, I bought it at launch, and it's really good. I think, as you say, it's like it's a really good length. I think it's probably about 8 to 10 hours, something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, you get longer out of it if you do a lot of the side stuff. But whereas I think, if I remember, the original Spider-Man was about 18 to 20, like across the main story, and you make your side stuff. So yeah, it did. The original did go on. I always really loved the story of the first one. I didn't get that same feeling as you did, which I think some games definitely I've had that feeling before, where you're like,
don't get me
you
wrong.
could just end it now.
Yeah, when the game ended, I did enjoy the story, but yeah, there was that point when I thought
it's a bit of a
yeah,
it kind of it's a problem with some games that they drag. No, but yeah, Miles Morales really good. Obviously sets up part of the next game as well, to some extent, or at least in terms of Miles's role in it all. And yeah, I mean, as a big comic fan and stuff, like, it's really great. I mean, just over the last few years, Miles Morales in general has, sort of blown up in media, into the Spider-Verse, etc. So it's really cool seeing another iteration of him, as it were. And I think the Insomniac game version is really good. As you say, he's a bit more interesting to play as than Peter Parker, because he's got the Venom powers, essentially, the electricity style stuff. So
I also really liked the animations as well, like when you're swinging around, because he's a new Spider-Man, he's still
he's kind of rough. He's
kind of like sailing around in the air, doesn't quite know what he's doing, he's falling backwards. Like, it just gives him so much more character, and I really like
I'm sure they took that from Into the Spider-Verse as well. I'm sure they were heavily inspired by how kind of clumsy and crap Miles Morales actually is as Spider-Man when he starts out. And that he's
I love the in-game skin, by the way. I imagine you know what I'm talking about. The Spider-Verse skin in the game. Did you ever?
Oh yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Yeah,
it's so good.
The way that
they lower the frame rate on just on the suit.
On the yeah, and it's kind of slightly cell shaded. It's amazing actually when you play it. Like, it feels so weird to play.
What I liked about how they implemented it is that, yes, it slows it down, but it doesn't slow it down by just the skin. You have to equip a suit power up, which is specific to that skin, to know that frame rate. Otherwise, you can play with that skin with nice silky smooth animations, or you can apply it and it drops it down. It was I didn't apply it after trying it out, but I did like that it's in the game. Just the fact that it's a thing, I thought was really cool.
It's really good. My favorite one was that one and the Bodega suit Spider-Man, which is the one where he has the hoodie and then the backpack with Spider-Cat in it as well. That was a really good one.
Yeah, that's
cool. I actually have a hot toy of that one as well, because it was my favorite one. I was like, I've got to get that because I need to see that in real life. Yeah, that's cool. They have a load of really cool unlockable costumes in that game, which makes playing it, for side stuff, kind of worth it if you're really into that stuff. So I think that's cool. But yeah, it's a great game. And I think if you play it on PS5 as well, it's all PC when it comes to PC later in the year, and put the ray tracing stuff on. It's just it's amazing. It's really amazing. So yeah.
How about yourself, Scott? Have you delved much into Spider? Did you have a PS4 at some point, or you have one?
I didn't, mate. No, so I've not actually played them. So I'm looking forward to checking them out when they come to PC. Obviously, I've seen a lot of just stuff that I've absorbed through the media. It's funny, the stuff that you mentioned about the first one, story dragging about. I do remember reading people having similar thoughts. I do have a question for you both, though, and look, apologies if this offends you, mate. Where does Miles Morales fit in as somebody who's largely absorbed Spider-Man and Marvel through movies? How does Miles Morales, where does he come from? How does he get spider abilities? Are we likely to see him in a movie at some point?
Probably. So Miles is essentially a multiversal Spider-Man, so he's a Spider-Man in a different universe. So in the games, at least in the background to the comics, in the games, he's just in Peter Parker's universe, and he becomes... in fact, they don't, and this isn't a spoiler, but correct me if I'm wrong, folks, because it's been a while since I've played it. They don't give his origin story in the original Spider-Man. So they don't tell you how he got his spider powers.
Okay.
No, he kind of he's already Spider-Man. Yeah.
He's already a Spider-Man, but you don't know that until later in the game. So again, not spoily, as in he just doesn't come into it super early on. So so yeah, that's how he fits in kind of in the games. In the comics and stuff, I would imagine with the Marvel multiverse stuff that they're really invested in, depending on what Sony want to do. Obviously, they could quite easily put him in to that and introduce him that way. But yeah, I mean, he gets his spider powers usually in a very similar way to Peter Parker, because he's just the Peter Parker of his universe, essentially. So, but obviously the background of Miles and his character is just totally different and really cool. But yeah, you'll see when the game comes out how Insomniac have integrated him. It's cool.
Yeah. Not just Spider-Man, but I guess PlayStation games on PC in general. I've currently got Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, and Final Fantasy VII Remake all just sitting on my laptop now, waiting to
Aren't you playing these things, Scott? You're playing
because I'm too busy playing Fall Guys.
You got these amazing genre defining games, and you're like, nope, gotta get that crown.
To be fair, I have started Final Fantasy VII.
Good.
The problem that I've got, and I think I've said this before, is I really can't play multiple single player games at the same time.
Oh, okay.
And I'm really close to the end of A Plague Tale, and I really want to get that done. I'd like to say I have started Final Fantasy VII, so I'll probably play that one first, and then maybe move on to the other. I did start God of War. I don't know why I didn't keep playing it, and I got Horizon Zero Dawn at the same time. So yeah, I think I'll do Final Fantasy VII, and then probably God of War. I think out of those. So
you've got to do God of War as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, I guess it's
shameful.
Fantastic game, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Ragnarok comes to PC fairly shortly afterwards. I don't think Forbidden West has got a PC announcement yet, has it?
No.
But I think that one's pretty much a dead cert to come to PC at some point.
Oh, yeah. I think they all will. It's just a question of when, really, isn't it? But yeah, go and play God of War as soon as possible. If you want to play Final Fantasy VII Remake's amazing, and I loved it, so I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But
you know what? Part of me was actually surprised that the remake isn't part of PS Premium. I would have thought because it's got a load of other Final Fantasies on there, so part of me would have thought it would be there. I was scrolling through looking for it, and I saw Final Fantasy VII, thinking, "Oh yeah, the remake's there." and then I took a second look very quickly, and it's the original one that got upgraded. And it was like, I don't want to play that one.
Yeah.
Played that years ago. I don't want to play it again. I want to play the new one.
Yeah. I've been a little bit surprised at how. I think I've played about 2 hours of 7 Remake, and I was surprised at how much I've taken to the combat early on, because that was actually one of my biggest concerns, is moving from the turn-based style of the original to obviously this new style.
You can change it, can't you? I believe you can toggle it, right?
You can't toggle it, but it's got, I think the thing that transitions people in well, which I really like, is it's got an ATB system.
Yes.
So you can essentially, you've got a load of abilities, and you can bring up a menu mid-combat, and it slows down time around you. And then you can scroll through and select something, and then your character will do the action. So it's kind of like this hybrid of a turn-based / I mean, you could never have to use it if you don't want, although I'd question if you could even get through the game without using it, because some of the abilities are really strong. But it's like part Devil May Cry, part original Final Fantasy, essentially.
That's a really good way of putting it, mate, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really good. But I'm glad you enjoy the combat, Scott, because I think it is, like, for some people it was like, I don't know if I can do, like, I don't know how much I'll enjoy it without any turn-based stuff, but actually you do get kind of some of that. You get like a hybrid, so it's quite, I think they did it quite well. Yeah,
absolutely. And when you say it slows down time, it really slows down time as well.
Like
it's pretty much stopped. So you get time to sort of pick your spell, and the The controls for going through them are fairly intuitive as well. Obviously, just using the bumpers and things like that to cycle through characters. So I'm enjoying that. So I kind of put that on hold, like I say, while I play a Plague Tale, and then I'll probably jump back to it. So, but look, what have you been playing recently, mate? I know you've obviously shown off your shiny Steam Deck already today. I know you've. I've seen you tweet about Inscription a little bit, but what else has been tickling your fancy?
Yeah, well, I'll bring it up again because, as you can see, Inscription is pretty much what I've been addicted to over the last week or so, probably longer actually. So that's the main thing I've been playing, and it's just amazing. I'm just like kind of blown away by how much I love it actually, because it's such a weird game, and it's such a like blend of different types of games. It's one of those games that's like super surprising when you play it because it goes in directions that I don't think you expect at all, like really don't expect, and that makes it kind of riveting to play it all the time. So yeah, it's really hard to even describe what type of game it is because it starts off one way and quickly transitions to a different thing. But essentially, it's at its core, it is a roguelike deck builder, basically, with escape room style puzzles and this mysterious, weird story, which I won't spoil because I think that's part of the amazing bit about it. But it's just bonkers. Like, it's just totally bonkers. And I mean, the underlying card game is really fun, simple, but then also can become really complex and deep and super deck buildery. And yeah, it's so hard to describe, but basically I'm completely addicted to it. So it's brilliant. And I think I haven't completed it yet. I've got about 12 hours in it. So it's a pretty meaty game. It's split up into acts. So there's 3 acts. I'm on the final act now. And it just goes places that you just don't expect at all, basically. So that's what I'm addicted to. And I've also been playing Neon White, which is brilliant, which is such a super cool game. I'm sure people, again, cards in that. I don't know what's happened. Right? Yeah, I don't know what's happened to me recently. Suddenly I really like card stuff. So that's like, again, bonkers, like, but in a cool way. It's like anime card game, essentially, as you say, Pucks. Except it's also like a speed running Doom first person shooter at the same time. So that's kind of how it works. Like you go through the levels are really short. They're all different little stages. I mean, there's tons of them, but they're all different stages, and you've got to get to the end of the level essentially. And some of these levels can be like a minute or less, and you've got like time challenges that you can get through them with. Obviously, you know, your kind of medal system is there: gold, silver, bronze, etc. And you're essentially picking up cards in the level that define the ability you can use. So, and you can swap cards as you're doing the run and use them. And once you've used them, they disappear. So you can actually get into positions where you can make yourself stuck in the level because you've, you know, used the wrong card at the wrong time and screwed yourself up. Because a lot of the cards have secondary abilities that allow you to do things like double jump or dash or stuff like that. So and it has a heavy platforming element as well in the kind of run of the level. And then it's got this it's anime style, and it's got this weird Persona like overworld that you can select and go and talk to people and kind of figure out more about the story. It's super cool. It's really, really well done. But I've only played about an hour and a bit because Inscription, essentially. So
yeah, both of those games, look, are on my wish list on Steam, but based on the backlog I've just explained that I've got and the other things I'm playing, I've actually held off playing them. They're actually games that I'm probably going to wait until I get my Steam Deck, because I think they'll be perfect games for if I'm in bed or on the sofa with the missus or something like that. I'll be able to play those. While I think something like God of War I'd prefer to play on my TV or monitor, so I'm probably going to hold off on them. But they're both on my wish list, although they were both on sale. Obviously, Steam's currently got the sale. I think Inscription's on sale. It's only like £11 or £12 at the moment.
Yep.
I think Neon White launched with a slight discount on Steam as well, so it was really, really tempting just to pick them up, but I thought I'll hold off a little bit. But yeah, I'm really glad you're enjoying them, actually, because Neon White, I think we saw it. Was it a Nintendo event, or was it? I can't remember which event it was. We saw Neon White.
I think it was a Nintendo event. Yeah,
maybe an indie director a while back, and I remember really just liking the look of it. And I've been genuinely surprised at how well people have taken to it. Like, people, a lot of the mainstream media are talking about it. A lot of people are streaming it. It's kind of taken off in a way that I really didn't expect it to, mainly because of its anime aesthetic. I thought people maybe just won't vibe with how it looks, but people are really, really enjoying it. And obviously the speedrunning elements added like a bit of a competitive thing, which is really cool to see. So I'm really glad to see that doing well. And you spoke about Inscription. I think you mentioned it to me months ago. And it's been on my wish list since then, but yeah, I've kind of held off. I will pick them up at some point, though.
Yeah, I think you should, and you'll probably become as addicted to Inscription as I have, because I mean, like I said, at its heart, it's just a really good card game. But it's so much more than that, and it's such a hard game to talk about because I want to talk about things that it does, but I feel like people should play it. Like I don't want to spoil that experience for people. So it's just bonkers. And if you've played the developers' prior game, which is called Pony Island, which was not a card game. I can't remember exactly how it played, but
the game where you've probably taken acid or something and then trigger
and that again is a bonkers game that goes in directions that you don't expect. And Inscription is exactly the same, basically, in terms of the wildness of it. So, please, someone play it so I can discuss it with them at length without worrying about spoilers.
Who is the developer, Luke?
It's Daniel Mullins Games. So, Daniel Mullins.
Is it a solo endeavor? Or is it a small team?
I think he's got more people now, but he started off as a solo developer. He's supremely talented. It's cool.
Very nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I've got something else I'd like to talk about, actually, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Another PS Plus I've been playing. Have you guys played any of the Mafia Definitive Trilogy games at all?
No, I've got one installed on Steam, and I just haven't.
Which one, if you don't mind me asking?
The first one, the proper remake one that they did.
So this is something I wasn't aware of, which is mainly what I was wanting to quickly talk about, because before the trilogy, the Definitive Trilogy, the only one I played before was Mafia 2 on the 360, which back then I thought was fantastic. Despite its quirky controls and things like that, I absolutely loved it for the story and the content and that kind of stuff. Never played the first one. I played a demo of the third one back in the day, didn't think much of it, and then it just passed me by. I didn't touch it again. Seeing all three on PS Plus, I thought I'd give it a go. And we seem to have lost Luke, unfortunately. I hope he's back very shortly. Playing the first one, I didn't realize that it's only the first one that was like a complete remaster. So like the facial animations, the graphical fidelity, the detail, everything was completely overhauled. And I remember reading up about it afterwards, because I know the first Mafia was an original Xbox game among the other platforms, I'd assume. And apparently in terms of the location and the city and the detail, it had a complete overhaul of everything. And once I got kind of used to, again, the controls were a little bit quirky, as they kind of are in those kind of games. But once you get into it, it was a really good game and I really enjoyed it. And then after finishing it, I was really looking forward to jumping into Mafia 2, expecting the same kind of remaster. But I was so disappointed to see that it was almost just like a simple up-res with just what seems like a lot of graphical bugs in it. I mean, I appreciate I'm playing on PS4, but still, this game was still like 10 years old even at this stage. So the fact that number 2 looks like the original, just with some slight tweaks, and that's about it, and the controls and everything else are the same, compared to the first one, it was such a massive disappointment. I don't even know if I can finish playing the second one, just because it's just so glitchy in places. It's just I can't stand it. I just wonder if you guys have played it and experienced the same thing. But
No, I've not actually played any of them pucks. To be perfectly honest, they've not been games that I'm interested in too much. And based on what you just said about the second one, it's not. I think it's unlikely that I'm probably going to want to play them. But that's a bit of a shame. Aren't they making another one of those? Is it Hangar 13?
Hangar 13,
the developers of
yes,
Mafia. Aren't they rumored to be making a Mafia 4?
Yeah.
But it's maybe rumored to be set before the first one. I might be wrong in that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's rumored to be set in Sicily, in Italy, in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. So really early Mafia stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Which could be really cool actually. So yeah, something a bit different, but yeah, we'll see how it is. I find the Mafia games in general like super inconsistent. So I think, you know, some are really cool and good, and then others are kind of and yeah, I get Pux's issue, which is that they went, you know, to super effort with the original remake. You know, looks like a current last gen game. And then the other ones, they're just two. They really should have given the same treatment because it was kind of free was modern and it looked good, so I don't think they need to do much with that. But two, yeah, it's kind of old enough now that they should have probably applied the same remake treatment to it, but they didn't. So yeah, but I'm not like a huge fan of the series in general.
Yeah, no, I'm in a similar boat. It's just one of those ones I saw and I thought, oh, I remember hearing good things about that. I'll give it a go. And then yeah, super like really impressed with the first game, and yeah, jumping into that second one straight after was, yeah, I was saying just before you dropped out that I don't even know if I could bring myself to finish it, just because it's just so many weird things wrong with it. Like it's got these little bugs and glitches in it, which just make it so far less enjoyable compared to the first game. So
yeah, go and play Returnal and Demon Souls instead.
I need a PS5 for that, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, well get one of them and then go.
I actually been saying to my wife because I start a new job in September, and I was saying that, oh, you know what, I might actually treat myself to a PS5 if I can find one in the first place. But
yeah, that's a big step. Yeah.
Returnal is pretty much nailed on to come to PC as well.
There
were screenshots of like the graphical settings menu. I think people thought that was going to be announced during the recent the State of Play where they announced Spider-Man for PC, because Nvidia tweeted about it. And I don't think anyone expected Spider-Man. I think everyone was pretty much convinced it was Returnal based on the leaks prior to that. So that might be one for PC Pox as well.
So I remember just very quickly on that Spider-Man front as well. I remember, not to bring any Twitter negativity to the show, but very briefly, I remember when that was first announced, when people love digging up like tweets of the past, and then like from 2018 or something, when they said that it's never going to come to PC, and then people were making comments like, oh, this tweet aged well, and it's like, dude, it's been like 4 or 5 years since then. Like, what do you expect? You think like things do change over time, and that just makes me wonder why people just seem to think that once you stated something online, like you're not allowed to change your mind or opinion on anything ever again.
Yeah, I remember that. It was bloody ridiculous. People retweeting it and stuff. It's like, yeah, you're right. It was 4 or 5 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty sad. It's like people are now mocking Insomniac for more people being able to play their games.
It's like that's only the great thing for business, right? It's like, why are you mocking? Why is it a mockable trait to have? People are weird online, but
yeah, I think this week has shown us that a lot, mate. Unfortunately, it has. So I think we got Luke back. Luke, are you back now, mate? Yeah.
Apologies.
So that's all right, mate. So, Luke, have you been playing anything else this past week?
I don't think so. I think I've been pretty absorbed into Inscription. I'm trying to think if I have been playing Wolfenstein 2 funnily enough.
Interesting. What made you go back to that?
I think it was part of that like big influx of games onto the Steam Deck that I wanted to try because I'd heard good things about how it ran on that. So I did that with a bunch of other games as well, like Doom Eternal.
Did you own them already, or did you have to buy them?
Yeah. I had them all on Steam. So Doom Eternal was a pain in the ass because I had to transfer it over from the Bethesda launcher, but it worked anyway. So what other games did I try out? Elden Ring and Sekiro and a couple of others. But anyway, and of them all, I went back to Wolfenstein, and I was like, oh, this is quite fun. This is a bit more fun than I remember it at the time. And I just started playing that because I never actually completed Wolfenstein 2. I completed the first one, and Wolfenstein 2 I got about 3/4 of the way through, and I weirdly dropped it because it kept giving me like motion sickness. And I think it's just because of the way the camera bob works in that game when you sprint and stuff, and also the level design on some of the levels is just awful. It's like super mazy and not very clear where you're supposed to go, which I never get with games. So I can't. All those factors back in the day made me just drop it. But I came back, and I don't know if it's because the Steam Deck's like just a much smaller screen and stuff, but the motion sicknessy stuff has gone, and the later levels have better level design. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, I'll keep playing this. So I've actually nearly properly finished it now, and I've really enjoyed it. To be fair, it's
do you reckon the smaller screen has helped you with the motion sickness as well?
Yeah, I think it has. Yeah, I think that's one of the big things. I don't know whether it's just like obviously when you're and bear in mind I played it on PC. I'm in front of a big screen and there's a big field of view, and I don't know whether it's just the mix of the big field of view and that game, in the way that it handles its movement camera, just caused me to get ill back in the day, but certainly on the deck it's a lot better, and it runs incredibly well. Like it's id Tech at work. I think it's on deck, medium high settings, native res. You can get 60 FPS pretty much locked. It will occasionally drop in like big explosions, big particle alpha effects going across the screen, but it runs exceptionally well. And it's super impressive to see on that system, like Doom Eternal is. Those games in your hand running natively. It's just kind of an out of body experience as a gamer. So yeah, it's really cool. So that's the only other thing I've been playing.
Very nice. Is Wolfenstein 2? Is that a New Order or Bad Blood, or because New Blood was after Bad Blood, wasn't it?
That's New Colossus.
New Colossus.
Wolfenstein 2. Yeah.
Right.
So it's New Order is the first one. Then Colossus, and then Bad Blood, which I would not recommend playing because it's not very good. So and it's kind of made me think, where the hell is the third game, the actual proper sequel? Like, what are Machine Games doing? Are they making it, or like they're just making Indiana Jones? Like, I don't. It's really frustrating because surely they're going to make another Wolfenstein because it's clearly envisaged as a trilogy. So I'm waiting to see like where's the next one and what's it going to look like, because the second one even now looks bonkers, because of id Tech. So yeah.
Well, a lot of people obviously speculated that we might see Wolfenstein at the Xbox Game Showcase, but we don't know if they are fully focused on Indiana Jones. Or whether they were working on Wolfenstein 3 before Indiana Jones. So maybe we'll find out. But I don't know how commercially successful the Wolfenstein games have been, or particularly the last one. Was the last one the one that wasn't particularly a good success? Was that
That was the co-op one, wasn't it?
Yeah, the one with the two daughters.
Yeah, that was the last one, and that wasn't particularly successful. I don't think. I think it did okay.
Yeah, I wonder if that's made them pivot.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a shame, obviously, but
yeah, I think they should finish. I mean, the risk of that is lower now, anyway, isn't it? Because it'll just go on Game Pass. But
yeah,
so they don't really have to worry about standard commercial success stuff. So I do hope they finish off the trilogy, because I think their games are really good, and they've got real talent for telling stories. I think telling Wolfenstein is you wouldn't think that game would have a good story because of what it's about essentially, but they made it have a good story. And it's funny, like it's super funny, kind of irreverent. So yeah, I hope they do. But don't give me bad blood, because that was crap.
Where we all sitting on Indiana Jones at the moment, out of interest? Are we excited? Not excited, or cautiously optimistic?
I'm optimistic. I think it needs to see what they're gonna do. You know what I mean? Because I think it's like I don't know, like rumors. People speculate about what perspective that game's going to be. Because machine games don't make third-person games, but
it has to be third person, or
it has to be, surely. Yeah. Like, I can't see them doing a first-person. For me, doing a first-person Indiana Jones would not make any sense whatsoever, and I don't know how well that would work, because Indiana Jones, it's not as if it's you look at the films and you go, oh, what kind of game this would make, like a first-person shooter style one, because it's not as if he uses like a ton of weapons all the time. It's much more, clearly Uncharted, because Uncharted itself is inspired by Indiana Jones. Yeah. So to me, the template is already there for a good game like that, because it's just Uncharted is just Indiana Jones. So do that. That's what I want them to make. Like, just do that. Bring their own stuff to it, of course, but like. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic, because in my head it's like an Uncharted game with its own twist and that sort of stuff. But if they come out and they're like, oh well, it's first person and stuff, I don't know how excited I'll be about that. But I'll obviously have to play it first. But
yeah, I think the thing that would just be weird is obviously the whip's going to play a big part in the game. Yeah, surely. Yeah. And I don't know if I've ever played a first person game with a whip.
Yeah. So how does it work? If it is, yeah.
We'll find out. I guess. How are you feeling on that one, Pucks?
Kind of similar to Luke in a way. It's one of those ones where, yes, it feels a bit strange, the fact that Uncharted 4 or Uncharted in general are basically inspired by it, but then it's the perfect template for an Indiana Jones game, and in my mind, that is the kind of game it should be, if not will be. Especially the whole concept of, is it going to be first person or third? And it's like, surely it has to be third person, especially because, the general context of first person, first person is that you're meant to kind of feel like you're that character in some, in most cases, whereas third person, you're controlling someone else, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and surely an Indiana Jones game, you need to be controlling Indiana Jones, knowing that he's Indiana Jones and not you trying to be him, if that makes any form of sense. But like anything, I think I was the same with like Starfield and things like that as well, where loads of people seem to get hyped for it. But for me, I need to, even though I can have an understanding of what I expect from it, I need to see what it actually is from the developers themselves for me to kind of begin to get really excited about it. So I hope it kind of plays something in the form of Uncharted, but yeah, I can't really say I'm excited or not, because I need to see it personally.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Scott? Where do you sit on the scale?
The problem that I've got is I'm just not a big fan of Indiana Jones as I've never particularly liked the movies, if I'm being completely honest. So, like, the IP itself doesn't particularly get me excited. Obviously, I'd be interested in seeing how it ends up playing. But not too much excitement for me. Obviously, that will hopefully change when they show it off and you can see sort of some of the stuff that you'll be doing in the game. I think that'll probably get people excited. But I imagine it's got to be third person. It would be weird if it was first person. But then I guess that makes you think, all right, how will the developers transition from that perspective? Is that an easy transition to make? But then I think of like Guerrilla Games and their transition from first to third with like Killzone to Horizon, and that was obviously very successful for them. So
Yeah.
I've got high hopes, but obviously not a massive fan of the franchise, personally.
Fair enough. I've got some comments in chat. I've seen what people are playing. If you don't mind me reading these out.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So I've got UK Dazarus, who's been playing some Formula 1 22 trial on Xbox, I'm assuming. Also been playing some Persona 5 Royal on PS4. Imel Steen's been playing lots of Fortnite and Forza Horizon 5. And Dazarus has also been playing some Forza Horizon 5. I think I saw one earlier. Flap, I believe, is still playing Demon's Souls on PS5 and very much enjoying it.
Yeah.
Here's one for you, actually. Speaking of... Oh, go on, Scott.
I was just going to say, I know Flap's really looking forward to having his Souls conversation, which will hopefully be this Thursday. I'll save them, but I've actually got some thoughts on Elden Ring that I'm gonna run past you guys.
Fair enough. I remember when
I will save them for the show.
I remember before Elden Ring, Flap and I had a similar mindset of not liking Souls games. It was more of a just found it too difficult to get into them. Elden Ring for both of us has been a massive converter, but Flap's taken it multiple steps further and in his own words, become a complete Souls bitch. So he's now playing all of the different ones and enjoying them all by the sounds of it. So nice. Looking forward to having that chat with him. What I was going to say,
about that on Thursday, but yeah, go on. Sorry, Pucks.
No, sorry. Are you guys Naruto fans by any means?
I was.
I have a reason for asking
this. Time.
How about yourself, Luke? Are you the same or
no?
Never been a fan?
No.
Okay, because I know in terms of Fortnite, because it comes from the chat. So they've brought out a while back. They had some skins of obviously the main trio or the main 4 characters of the series, and then they've recently had more of the popular side cast as skins as well. But then they've also added in the original pack again for people to buy. I had a look and I added up all of the kind of V-Buck totals for them, and then had a quick, very, very easy, simple maths of seeing how much real money that is. And if you don't own any of them and you wanted to own all of them, including emotes and gliders and all that kind of stuff, it costs you about 55 to 60 quid. And I thought that is ridiculous. And they've done it tactically in their own way as well. So you can't buy like one big bundle with, say, or they haven't done it like 2 big bundles. You have one bundle which is just, say, 2 characters, and then another bundle with another 2 characters. And they've done that for like 2 more times. But then for myself, if I was interested, like the 2 characters I would want are in 2 separate bundles. So it's like, rather than having it all in one, and I just thought, I appreciate this is nothing new in terms of Fortnite, but from such a massive franchise, or at least in the niche market of anime that people are into, if you're into Naruto, it just felt like such a low tactic of splitting it up like that just to get more people to buy the packs. But when I looked at the total, I thought it's not even worth this. I haven't played Fortnite in a while now, so I'm not in that position to want to buy it. But out of my own interest, I had a look, and I can't say I was shocked because, you know, I'm well beyond that now in terms of microtransactions. But 55, 60 quid just for some skins in a collection, I thought was mad. Whereas most of their gaming series, you pay just like maybe like the 10 quid to have the Master Chief plus all of his gear all in one, or maybe 15 quid at a push. But yeah, when I saw that 60 quid total, I just kind of sighed and then just closed the game.
That's the free to play model for you, though, isn't it, Pox? I mean, we were just chatting in the green room about Fall Guys, and how the transition from not free to play to free to play has kind of impacted the sort of in-game economy there. And previously, the character or the crossover characters, particularly a lot of the PlayStation ones, like Jin from Ghost of Tsushima, Aloy, etc., they were all kind of part of events, and they were very easily earned through in-game rewards. Now they've transitioned away from that, where obviously everything's paid, and they've recently had the I think it's still going until tomorrow. They've got the Spartan Showdown event, which is obviously linked to Halo, and you can buy the Master Chief outfit, but I don't know how much it is, but it's too expensive for a little shitty bean costume of Master Chief. And if it was a couple of quid, I would probably stump up, but I think it's like 8 quid or something for
Wow.
just one little costume, and then they've got a bundle in there which is even more expensive. And previously, these are games that are items that would have probably been, like I say, easily obtainable without spending any money, just by playing the game. And I was like, no, I'm not giving you any money for that. I don't show it up on this video, unfortunately. They've got like one element, which is like the chief costume with the cat ears from Infinite, which is free, but then the rest of it is unfortunately paid, which is a massive shame. But that's kind of the way that these things go now, unfortunately. I've always thought that.
Go for it. I know they've done the whole Halo Fall Guys kind of collab thing, but wasn't there something where there's a Fall Guys thing in Halo MCC? And obviously nothing to do with Infinite at all.
Oh man, honestly, I could spend an hour talking about this. So yeah, as part of the crossover, they've basically got a Halo. It's basically the Chief's outfit in Fall Guys as a backpack in Halo 3 in the Master Chief Collection. So you can equip backpacks. Similar to Fortnite, you can put backpacks on in Master Chief Collection. But the Halo crossover with Fall Guys is with Master Chief Collection, which is ancient now, and not with the bloody brand new live service game that's come out. So I had a little bit of a rant about it on Twitter, actually. And I think it's just, unfortunately, I guess it just shows the state of Infinite right now. They couldn't even put in a Fall Guys weapon charm in Infinite as part of this crossover. And I spoke about it. They didn't even have a crossover event with the bloody TV show when that came out. They eventually added some like emblems and things like that from the show, but they didn't have, for those who aren't familiar with the show, it's obviously an alternative timeline where they've got Master Chief, but Blue Team's being replaced by a Silver Team, and there is Riz, Vanek, and Kai, who are kind of Chief's team, who replaced like Fred, Linda, and Kelly from Blue Team, and they've got their own outfits, and they're quite distinctive. And some of I think actually the armor designs in the TV show were some of the better elements of the show, and they didn't put them in the bloody game. Like I don't understand it. I say I think it's just shows where the state of that game is at the moment, unfortunately.
In Halo Infinite, I'm trying to remember the cosmetics. So I know you can put stickers on guns, but do you have charms that you can put on guns as well, or is that not a thing?
Yeah,
yeah.
You got charms, you got stickers. They don't have the backpacks.
Bean character. Charm on a gun, like surely exactly, that's what you do, right?
exactly. But I think it's obviously just they've got all available resource just on fixing the game, unfortunately, or Forge or Co-op or whatever it else that they're working on at the moment. They've obviously just got so much resource on that element of the game that they just can't afford it.
I've got a Halo question for you both once you're done, actually. I've just remembered something.
Cool. I was going to say, I don't want to spend too much time talking negatively about Halo because I think, like I say, this week's just been filled with negativity. But there was also that news this week where they spoke about, I think one of the developers came out. And to be fair, I appreciated the transparency. But one of the biggest issues with the game is desync, where the server thinks you're in a slightly different place to the place you really are. And that leads to issues with melees and assassinations and things like that. They basically came out and said, look, the people who would typically be working on that are working on other things, and that's why it's not fixed. And it's just like, this is one of the biggest studios in the world. And I just don't understand it. I really don't. Obviously, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I can kind of forgive them for like these crossover things. Like they should have had something for Fall Guys. They should have had something for the TV show, but it would have all just been cosmetics. That's fine. But when one of the biggest issues that's plaguing the game right now is being put further back because they're working on other things, it's like, surely they've got enough development resource in that team. It's massive that they could allocate resource to both. And
given the scope of the game and how long they want it to run for, why are you putting resource elsewhere? Like, surely this should be your priority, surely.
Well, the reason for it, Pox, is because they fucked up the launch, unfortunately. It's because they didn't launch with some of these core features that Halo fans expect, like campaign co-op and split screen and things like that. That resource has been dedicated to that because they've put timelines on it. They've said this will be out by this time, and they've missed it once already. In fact, I'd just say they've missed it twice, and because they've now pushed it to during this season rather than with this current season, which is season 2. So they've kind of they've had to reallocate resource to make sure they get that out in time. Thankfully, campaign co-op's been flighted this month, and from the stuff that they've shown, I'm excited to finally be able to go through the campaign again on Legendary.
That was what my
really
question was going to be about, actually, regarding the co-op. Do you mind if I ask that question?
Yeah,
now?
go for it.
So one of the things I know they did bring up, because I believe the impression they gave when they talked about co-op way back was that, they ideally any player in the fire team could go anywhere, but then they wasn't sure how they were going to handle people doing different missions all at the same time. So it sounds like to try and restrict that, they've added in this I can't remember the official term for it, but basically area of operation, I believe they call it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Up to 800 meters between each players, where you have to be. Anything over 1,000, you get auto killed and respawned back to the nearest player. I was just going to ask. I mean, both of you really, as massive Halo fans, what are your thoughts on that? Are you disappointed the fact that you can't have players going anywhere doing what they want, or do you think it makes perfect sense that they're limiting this? I know I personally appreciate that they're probably limiting it from a more technical perspective rather than a gameplay one. But I don't think it's a bad idea. If you're meant to be a team, then try to keep the team together. But assuming that, arguably they were saying, we'd love you to be able to go out, do everything you want, but sorry, we've ballsed up the game a little bit, and this is what we've compromised on. This is kind of what I'm hearing as well when I read it the other day. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it? Are you happy with this, or do you wish that you could just have players going anywhere they want? I think they did also caveat it by saying, to give you context of 800 meters, you're going to have 2 players approaching a banished site from either end, and you've still got room to spare. So it's not like it's a small radius, but arguably a lot smaller than what people may have hoped, perhaps. What do you reckon? Or do you have no thoughts at all? Are you oblivious to this?
I think from my perspective, it's kind of a wait and see with that, because I think a lot of the stuff they spoke about in that blog post, like how they handle progression and things like that, off the back of we spoke about Redfall recently, where we spoke about how the story progression is linked to just the horse. That's not the case here. I think there's a lot of things similar to that sounded good, and I'm excited to be able to play it. I think the area of operations is something that really we won't know until we play it, because we don't know how far that is. But from my perspective, when I'm playing Halo co-op, generally you're very close to your teammate anyway. But that's playing co-op on previous Halo games that are far more linear. This one's obviously, once you get out of those opening missions, is very much open. You've got the ability to just spawn a vehicle like a wasp and just head off anywhere that you want. So we'll have to wait and see how much that impacts the flow of the game, because it's 4-player co-op as well. So if it's, I can't remember if they spoke about it, but if it's 800 meters or whatever from the host, and you've got 4 people or 3 other players who are going in opposite directions, is it going to be intrusive? Is it going to impact the potential that the game could have? I understand why they've done it, but my fear with that is, did you guys play State of Decay 2 out of interest?
Only a small bit, yeah.
So that had a tethering system for the online co-op that I didn't really like, because it did limit how far you could go, and that's obviously an open world game as well. I think this is slightly different to State of Decay, though, where I don't think it'll have as much of an impact, but it has the potential to have an impact. I don't know how much of it was design or technical, because they have spoken about it being cross-play between PC, Xbox One, and the Series consoles. Is maybe the Xbox One in some way holding it back? I'm not too sure, but we'll obviously just have to wait and see. But I'm really excited to finally be able to play it in co-op. I've been saving my Legendary run for co-op being enabled, and I think.
Do you have a team ready as well for that? Do you?
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends who are up for playing it. I've got one friend who hasn't played the campaign yet because
right, okay.
he's waiting for co-op because that's how he plays Halo games, which I think shows you how much of a miss that was from launch of the game. So, how are you feeling about that, Luke? Out of interest.
Yeah, I think in the same view as in I need to wait and see how that will work. You know, the distance limitation essentially. 800 meters sounds like quite a lot, so I think it'd probably be okay. But you know, I'm not going to go back and play it in co-op, so it would be purely academic for me, seeing how it would work. I think there's potentially a lot of interesting stuff you could do in the future. You know, if they bring out more, which they will, more campaign stuff.
Yeah.
And then I might, you know, go and see what it's like with friends. But yeah, I think it's I think it's all just a mess, isn't it? From 343, it's all just been such a mess. And I was actually playing it the other day with my friends, the multiplayer, just kind of related but unrelated. And I don't know what it is as well with their matchmaking, but we were when the new maps came out, we were complaining so much because we just weren't getting the new maps in the rotation of our games, whether that was BTB or arena style ones. And you know, we eventually got the maps and we enjoyed them, you know, once or twice. And then we played the other day, and all we got legitimately for an hour and a half were the two new maps on either like arena games 4v4 or the banished shipyard one on Big Team Battle, to the point where we're just absolutely sick of these maps by the end. We're just like we've said like to each other, we need a new game. Like everybody's just so annoyed at this game. You know, it's been launched for so long, and we've got two new maps, and they're good. They're good maps, you know. They're both good, but there's just not enough there. Like, there's just not enough content, like, still. And I just find it amazing. Like, it's actually amazing how a studio this big with this much money has been so horrendously mismanaged and has so many issues, to the point where, you know, all the goodwill, well, the vast majority of the goodwill they seem to get on launch has just kind of evaporated now. And people are just kind of like, you know, call me when it's, you know, the Battle Royale comes out, or, you know, whenever they actually do a big content drop. So I'm glad that they're doing the campaign stuff, because they're obviously trying to deliver on the promises they've made. That's good. You know, Forge will be soon or next, you know, it's one of the bigger features, I would imagine. So, that will be handy, certainly on PC. That would be really handy. But yeah, it's just a bit depressing, really, as a Halo fan, I think.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that they've got, just touching on something you said there, Luke, which was call me when you've got something else, is you've got Overwatch 2 coming out in October. You've got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 coming out this year.
Yeah, true. People may just go away.
Those are now essentially competing studios within Xbox as well. Obviously, the deal still hasn't gone through, but yeah, they're going to have to be
better.
I watched a video actually, and if anyone's genuinely interested, if anyone has heard of Hidden Xperia on YouTube. He's primarily a Halo content creator, and he talks about story stuff. He's well invested in the lore, but he also talks a lot about the multiplayer. He made a video recently where he talked about sort of what it needs, and I agree with pretty much everything he said, which was it basically needs a relaunch. Something to get people excited again, and they need content for that relaunch, which will largely probably center around a battle royale mode whenever that comes out. It needs that massive kick up the arse to get people playing something new and exciting. Because I'm honestly a little concerned that new maps won't cut it. Anymore. I mean, is 2 new maps in August or whenever they're meant to be coming? I think it's actually later than that. Is that going to be enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point about the relaunch, because I mean, essentially, if you look at Overwatch 2, that's what that game is. It's a relaunch of 1. Obviously, they've changed a fair bit as well for that game, so it's 5v5 rather than 6v6, and they've upgraded visuals and sound design and all this stuff. They've done a lot of that, but the problem is funny because I think Overwatch, in a lot of ways, or at least some ways, mirrors exactly what Infinite has done, which is that it launched with a great deal of a good amount of content day one, and then, well, it's a little bit different from Infinite because Overwatch was actually supported and had a fairly regular cadence of content, whether that was new maps or characters. But then at some point, it just completely tailed off. And people were like, okay, well, you're not really doing much now in terms of adding to the game. And Infinite feels like it's in that position because there's just so little content coming out that it's becoming quite stale. And I think the one thing that they're doing well for Overwatch 2 is they're saying, okay, day one, this is everything that's coming, and then this month you'll have this content, this month you'll have this content. The map for 2023 looks like this in terms of content, and you can see they've tried to take that on board and say, okay, look, if you get the game, and it's free to play obviously, but as it's Halo, there's going to be plenty of stuff coming down the pipe and day one. And I think probably they would need to do a similar move for Infinite, not call it Infinite 2 or anything like that, but get to a position where they've got a load of content they're sitting on, and then go, right, okay, we're going to relaunch it, or do a 2.0 on this date, and then there's all this stuff to come, and so be excited about it. Because I think at the minute it's just all over the place, in terms of what they're trying to deliver, and we don't really know what the roadmap looks like beyond the next couple of things. They're not really committing to any particular content, and as you say, your map's going to be enough. I don't know. I think probably needs a new mode like the Battle Royale, new maps. It needs everything, doesn't it? I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah. The thing is, and I've said this the whole time, is it does genuinely, in my opinion, have just a huge amount of potential. I think if I imagine a future of Halo where it's got a Battle Royale mode, it's got Forge, it's got campaign co-op, it's got campaign DLC, it's on a regular cadence of new maps, new modes, it has the potential, in my opinion, to be bloody massive, because just something like Forge alone has the potential of just essentially creating an infinite amount of user-generated content. And a lot of things like, people are complaining, rightly so, I think that, a mode as simple as Infection isn't in Halo. Those are game modes that came from Forge. The community brought those game modes to Halo. So I think that's obviously a massive miss. And if they could bring that in along with the Battle Royale mode, I think at that point they can maybe say, look, this is our 2.0, so to speak. And a combination of new maps, new modes, the community creates stuff from Forge, the fact that the Battle Royale is just a completely new take on Halo, has potential to really reinvigorate the player base. But I think if Season 3 comes and it's just, right, here's a new mode and 2 new maps again, I'm pretty confident in saying that that's not enough at this stage. It needs to be something bigger and better than that. Which is a massive shame. And I think something like Overwatch, I think one of the benefits that type of game has is, I think, a new character, which Halo obviously can't do because it's not obviously a character-based shooter, I think has a way of freshening up the gameplay without introducing new maps or modes in a way that obviously Halo can't achieve, because it impacts the meta so much. They could do character balancing that changes the meta, which impacts gameplay and impacts how people play the game in a way, like I say, that Halo just doesn't have that luxury because it's not that type of game. So it'll be interesting. But they're going to have a lot of competition essentially from internal studios in the not too distant future, and they really need to get on top of it. And this isn't necessarily, I know a lot of people talk about people need to leave and things. I would never say anything like that. I don't think we don't know what's going on behind closed doors at that studio, but the reality is live service games it's very easy for people to drop you. And if you don't keep that regular content up, then you unfortunately just going to find yourself in obscurity. Even a game as big as Halo, So hopefully they can turn that ship around. I've put some Halo footage on earlier. I'm still playing it fairly regularly, but it's not me that I think they need to please. Obviously, I want them to please me as well, but it's the other people that are now playing Fortnite instead. The people who are playing Call of Duty, other people who are going to be playing Overwatch. It's those guys that they need to bring in, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, we'll see something soon from Halo, because I do actually think a Halo Battle Royale has so much potential. I really do think that has so much potential. I think if there's one franchise that suited the Battle Royale more than any, it's Halo. Just something as simple as having the drop pods that are part of the franchise before it. Halo 5's rec system and the different weapons that you could get. You have a shield in the game anyway that it could be depleted when you spawn. You got to build it. I think it's just is one that's really suited. So
yeah,
we will see. So
Parksy in the chat's got a question for you.
Go for it.
Says, I'm not a Halo player, but do you think 343 maybe should have put more resources into getting Forge out nearer to the launch and have that carry it through the slower months?
Yeah,
go for it, Luke.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the problem is that they should have done a lot of things resource-wise, or they should have, I mean, really, looking back, should it have launched then? I mean, maybe not. Maybe they should have taken longer. I mean, they couldn't take any longer because I think they would have been absolutely crucified for doing so. But I think Forge would have helped at the beginning, yeah, for sure, because as you say, like it gives a bit of breathing room for the developer because you've got so much community stuff going on. But clearly, they were just nowhere near it. I mean, it's not even as if they were kind of like, oh, well, we're close to launching it, so let's tell people that it's miles away. It's miles away. So, I don't know what you think, Scott, but it's just a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I think ultimately the answer to the question is yes, they should have got Forge out sooner. But the reality is, where would that resource have come from?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind the challenges the game's had, where would that resource... And this is kind of where I really struggle with it, is because we know how large a studio they are, is where are their resources at the moment? Because they've got a team working on Forge, they've got a team working on, no doubt, campaign DLC, but it's like, where would that resource have come from to focus on Forge? Would that have been... Because it's not like they've been knocking out maps left, right, and center since launch. It's not like they've launched 10 new maps and you could say, right, maybe do less maps and focus on Forge. I can't visualize where that resource would have come from, because obviously I don't know what the guys there are working on, but they've obviously they've been firefighting a lot since launch, and it's difficult to take people off firefighting issues in a game to focus on new features, because you need to focus on the here and now. If you remember the big team battle issue they had around Christmas, couldn't play big team battle for weeks. They couldn't take resource from the people who were trying to fix that to focus on Forge, because then big team battle would have been broken for even longer. So yeah, I mean, yeah, they should have focused on getting Forge out nearer to launch. Arguably it should have came with launch. But where would that have come from? Sorry, but yeah, Forge would absolutely have carried them through like content droughts, because the community would be constantly making content. But my concern with Forge is it's not just Forge itself; it's what you need around it. You need custom game browsers. You need file sharing, things like that, so people can take advantage of Forge. It's all well and good if people can create cool shit. If you can't share it, or if you can't play it, or you don't have the ability to, for just other people to come and join your games without having them on your friends list and things like that. So they need changes to the UI. They need to add things that the game doesn't currently have from like a custom game perspective, like not matchmaking, but like say custom game browser, like what's in Master Chief Collection. So that's more resource that you need to focus on other areas of the game that are kind of indirectly linked to Forge as well. So, but yeah, Epoxy would have massively helped because, like I say, a lot of the creativity comes from the community in Halo. If you look at a lot of the cool modes, one of my favorite modes on Halo 5, I don't know if you ever played this, Luke, was Mongoose Sumo. Which was part of the Action Sack playlist, which was basically everyone's just on a mongoose and you were on a map that got smaller and you were just trying to push each other off. Little things like that were just really fun to play, and they came from the community, so it absolutely would have made a difference. But here we are. Unfortunately, I really hope they've got some cool stuff to show in the not too distant future, because I really want this game to be a success. But the longer we go on with the current state of things, the harder it is to see, it being a long-term success. Yeah. Poxy also just mentioned there, how many years was it in development? I think it was 6 overall, and what the resources being used on. Well, I guess the resources could have been the new engine. The Slip Space engine was probably a big time sink. It obviously had issues switching to the more open world side of things. So yeah, who knows? Apologies if you can hear my dog barking in the background. I'm going to go and shut it up for a moment. So you guys calm yourself for a brief moment. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, no worries, Scott. So unfortunately, there's not too much I can comment on this, because I'm not, I think, as I said many times before, I'm not a massive Halo fan. I haven't played it nowhere near as much as you guys have. I mean, do you share that same sentiment on that question, Scott? Or Luke, sorry, where Parksy asks, that's the thing I can't understand. Halo Infinite is not the biggest feature-filled game ever launched. How many years in development has it been? What are all the resources being used on? Cosmetics?
Yeah. Well, no, because they're not very good either. So I think... Yeah, I think Scott's right. I mean, I don't think we'll ever. Well, maybe one day the full story of its development properly will come out, and we can kind of post-mortem it. But
do you reckon Microsoft are agitated with the state of the game, given it's obviously originally the big Xbox franchise, right?
I think they have to be. I can't see them being pleased about the reception that it's had over the last year and the criticism that's been thrown its way. But I think they're probably... I think it's really difficult for them because they probably recognise the potential of it. But the fact is that, Halo is just not as big of a franchise as it was. Now, there's potential for it to get back there because the show has been really successful. Infinite, at least at launch, was very successful. But it's going to take something pretty big, and I don't know what that is, really. And, 6 years of development for what you got on day one, I think Parksy's right. Like, you got a solid core of a game on day one because you got a pretty good campaign. It's not an amazing campaign, and you can tell, that like, my friends that have played it are just like, they've finished the campaign, and the thing that they say to me is like that the campaign is like the same thing for 15 hours. It's the same like environments. It's the same, boss structure. Like there's a lot of what feels like copy and paste in that, and I think that's a testament again to the struggles that they've had in development. So it was a decent campaign. But it wasn't a classic Halo campaign by any means, I don't think.
Oh, is this all the chat around how there's no different biomes and things like that?
Yeah, that's one of them, but it's also like that just, the structure is pretty much the same, like all the way through. It's open environment, same biome, go and infiltrate a base. The base always looks the same, as in it's either one of two. It's either a banished design or effectively a forerunner design. Do something in there, come out, and then repeat that. So it's like there's not enough variation, even what you're doing moment to moment, or the interior environments that you're seeing, or anything like that. For a Halo ring, which is supposed to be like exotic and have different stuff in it, it doesn't feel like that. So that's like an issue. And then obviously the multiplayer launched, and the multiplayer had 10 maps, I think, which isn't a lot really in hindsight, because it only had 2 big team battle maps, Scott, I think, or was it 3?
3, so 7 arena and 3 BT.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of, not a great deal of maps there. It's enough to last you for a couple of months, which is what everybody expected it to last. But then obviously, that transpired that, well, they just didn't really have much else, for a long while. So, I think that there's going to have to be, and I echo Scott's thoughts that, I don't want anyone to lose their jobs or anything, but clearly something needs to happen at the studio. Something needs to change, and they need to kind of reassess their process for all of this and think about what's next for the future of it. Because at this point, they've said, "Oh, Halo Infinite's a 10-year game." They're committed to that, but I wonder if it's even worth it at this point. Like, and I don't mean like just discarding it, but it seems like because of all the negative perception around it, it's going to be really hard to get people excited about that 10-year roadmap. So it either needs a relaunch, or they need to maybe reevaluate what that commitment actually means and think about, okay, how do we, do we do an Overwatch 2, or do we do something a bit radical like that, or we're going to try and do a soft reboot, or what are we going to do? Because I just think they're in a bit of a pickle with it.
That is something I was wondering as both of you was talking earlier about how 10-year roadmap, and it's already not gone down too well, and the perception, and it's dropping off already. Do you reckon? The whole talk about resources have been moved elsewhere, and no doubt, obviously, they've got other projects they need some maintenance on, or to top up some bits or whatever. But do you reckon they have pulled some team away to basically rethink the current roadmap, or do you reckon they've even ditched it already? Do you reckon this 10-year thing is even still a thing, or do you reckon they're already potentially reworking it heavily?
I mean, I think it is still a thing. I think they'll have. This is what I don't understand really about 343, I guess, because I think it's pretty much known that Certain Affinity are making the Battle Royale. And I assume there are some 343 devs helping with that, but Certain Affinity are a big studio, more than enough to make a standalone mode. And then you've got, 343 have probably 500 devs, maybe, something like that. They're a very big AAA studio. And I really question, what on earth are they making that's causing them to have so little content? Because with that amount of people, as Scott said, to come out the other day and say we can't fix this desync issue at the moment because the people who would normally work on that are on a different project. That was honestly, I was honestly embarrassed for them when they made that excuse, because they're not this isn't Hello Games making No Man's Sky, which is a really small team. Look how much content that game has that they've delivered over the years. Using a small team, I don't understand how 343 can't deliver more consistent content with the resources and the people that they have. I don't understand it. So I don't think they've abandoned the 10-year plan. I just think for whatever reason, it's taking them just forever to actually initiate it. We should have seen some of the fruits of this already, but you've got nothing basically. You've got 2 maps and a new mode, or a couple of new modes, and some crap cosmetics. I don't really understand. It's just weird. So I think obviously if the Battle Royale came out and Forge came out, and then other things came out, maybe the first campaign, DLC, whatever that is, and they were really soft in terms of response, which I don't think they will be, because I think at minimum a Battle Royale release will be very popular. But if they were, I think then they would reevaluate, okay, should we just, keep it going with new maps and stuff, but focus our efforts on, a sequel or something like that.
Yeah. I think Battlefield 2042 is probably in a similar situation where they didn't necessarily explicitly say a 10-year plan, but they planned for Battlefield 2042 to be a game with a long tail, very much a live service. And they're probably maybe having similar conversations internally about, right, what do we do? Do we commit to it, work on improving the game and hopefully have a bit of a revival, or do we drop it and move on to Battlefield whatever is next?
Definitely feels like it's an open secret, doesn't it, that I don't know, that they're almost potentially abandoning the game.
Well, the rumors came from Jeff Grubb, didn't they? And then EA came out and refuted those rumors.
I think they would, though, wouldn't they? I mean, I don't think they would ever agree with it such early on from in its life cycle.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we'll see. You know, if anything comes of it. But I mean, yeah, Battlefield 2042 was one of my most anticipated games ever. Genuinely, I was so excited for Battlefield 2042 because of how much I enjoyed 3 and 4. And I guess it just goes to show how bloody hard live service games are to make. You know, these are massive studios with an immense amount of talent that have stumbled, unfortunately. So we'll have to see. But I agree with Luke. I think at this point, I certainly expect Xbox and 343 to be completely committed to that plan. But if whatever their next big thing is, whether that be campaign DLC, BR, or Forge, or a combination of all three, if that doesn't move the needle like they're expecting, then at that point, I think, yeah, they've kind of got to reevaluate what they do next. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach that. But I also agree with Luke that I think that some of those things, particularly Forge and a Battle Royale, do have and will likely move the needle quite significantly. But what they've got to do is what they didn't do with the launch of the game, which is take that momentum and continue delivering, because the game was really well received at launch. I think I think people's opinions on the campaign have maybe become a little bit more mild since launch, but I think at the beginning a lot of media were obviously the guys who were talking about it were really excited about what they had done with the campaign. I think a lot of people were quite positive on the changes that they made from that demo in terms of how the game looked. I think people loved the core mechanics of the game, but then after that people were like, okay, well, what else are you bringing? And I think that's where it kind of fell apart a little bit. So if they do get that, I guess, burst of momentum, they need to make sure they capitalize on it and make sure that they're using that as a platform to hit that regular cadence of content, which, you know, we'll have to see if they do or don't. So yeah, I am really looking forward to whatever comes next. But if I was to say one thing I think they should do is they just need to come out Monday, preferably, and just say, look, this is what the next 1 to 2 years looks like. If that means announcing the Battle Royale, they don't have to show anything, but just say, look, they don't even have to say it's a Battle Royale. They can just say we've got a new exciting experience for Halo or something bullshit like that, because people will know what it is, so they don't have to say it, but say this is coming November. This is coming then. Season 3 is going to be 3 months. We're going to rework the shop. We're going to rework the UI. We're going to introduce custom game browsers. Forge is coming on this particular date. They kind of need to do that, because I think that's ultimately what the game needs at the moment, because the main issue is we don't know what's coming and when. You'll notice if I put my Halo footage back up, let's see if I can skip to it. Like there, you can see there I'm level 70 in the Battle Pass, and there's still like 3 months left, and I'm not trying, and I've almost completed it, you know. So yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. Unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for us, I guess, as players of the game. So
yeah, it's worse for us.
That's just the main thing. So
yeah.
Well, guys, we're coming up to about an hour 45 on the show so far. I guess maybe just to wrap things up, was there anything that anybody wanted to finish off the show chatting about? Anything in particular that cropped up this past week? Any other games anyone's been playing? Anything from the Nintendo Direct that stood out for anyone?
Pac-Man World, I'm quite excited for.
Oh, really?
Only because I played the original way back, so it was a really, really weird surprise to see that pop up, because it's such a niche game of the past as well. So for that to be remade, I thought was quite a pleasant surprise. I appreciate it's one of those ones that's going to fall down the wayside for most people. But if you like 3D platformers like I do, it's one of those ones. It's quite a standout title. So I'm looking forward to giving it a go at some point. It's not necessarily a day one for me whenever it's releasing, but I thought it was quite an interesting one to be revealed.
Yeah. Did anything stand out for yourself, Luke?
No, I think not in terms of surprises. Like, I'm really pleased that Persona is coming.
Yeah.
Which, again, after the Xbox announcement, I think that wasn't too much of a surprise because it would be weird if it didn't come to Switch as well at that point.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Mario Rabbids continues to look great, so that looks really, I mean, the first one was brilliant, surprisingly brilliant. So I'm looking forward to this one. But other than that, yeah, nothing really grabbed me from it, I don't think. I think Mario Rabbids was the thing that looked really good, and I think that's coming out. And they announced a date, didn't they? It's October, is it, or something?
Yeah, October 10th or something like that. Yeah, I think
so.
I
Not
think
long, not long to wait, which is cool. Yeah, I'm kind of just waiting for Nintendo's big first party direct. I think that's what
Hopefully
people were excited for, and and we didn't get that yet. So
yeah, I wonder if the Zelda delays kind of what's moved that back a little bit, because that would probably be the main thing of the show, unless they were going to announce a new Mario as part of it.
There are rumors of a Metroid trilogy coming out to Switch, isn't there? Have you seen these?
Yeah, I think, was it Prime 1?
Yes, so I think
yes, originally, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's now. I think Grubb is saying that a remaster of the first Metroid Prime will hit this year. That's their big holiday game.
Yeah. If that is true, there must be a direct relatively soon to start hyping that up.
Yeah, you'd think so. I mean, they've had if everything hits this year, they'll have a great year. Splatoon 3 that's got a date. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 next month. Bayonetta 3 is still scheduled for this year.
Pokemon game.
Yep.
Mario Rabbids. They've already released Kirby. That's a really, really strong year, even without Zelda. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when that comes. Obviously, really excited to see whatever Breath of the Wild 2. Well, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I've got no doubt about that. But I'm really looking forward to seeing more. I'm really curious as to when they're going to announce the sequel to Odyssey. I kind of feel like if Zelda, I don't know, if Zelda wasn't delayed, that maybe we might have had that announcement this year. But with Zelda being delayed to next year, then maybe they might hold off on that.
Do you reckon they will do an Odyssey 2? Or do you reckon they'll maybe do something a bit different like they do usually? I suppose if it's a Switch title, similar to... I think it's basically the same as the Wii, right? It's just going to be a Galaxy 2, I'd imagine. Hopefully an even better title than Odyssey 1, if it is true. But do you see them doing an Odyssey 2 or, doing something different?
I think they could. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to predict the
Nintendo,
Mario
right?
teams
So you never
sometimes.
know.
Yeah.
I think there'll be something different, personally.
Yeah, I think they'll do something different.
I feel like Odyssey's almost kind of one and done in a way, in my personal opinion. As much as I love it, I don't think people would be happy with just the same thing again.
I think it's elements maybe similar to Odyssey because I think that's a really good formula, but I don't think they'll call it Odyssey 2. Yeah, I think it will be a new thing. I'll be excited to see what it is because Odyssey was incredible. So let's see. But yeah, surely it's not far away from being announced at this point.
Yeah, I wonder if next year 2023 is going to have Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 earlier in the year than Mario Fall, which would be a pretty pretty bonkers year from a Nintendo perspective. Even if that was the only two things that they released, obviously they'll have a boatload more. But
I know this is something that people talk about a lot, but Switch in general, I suppose, just to close out the show as we get into time anyway. We're coming up to almost 6 years of Switch already, which arguably is kind of coming up to the end of most consoles' lifetime, especially like something like the Switch. I don't know. Do you see the Switch existing for much longer in its current form, or do you reckon something updated or new is going to come out in the relatively near future? Like, I'm talking about maybe like 2-3 years from now. Do you reckon we'll start seeing stuff, if not even sooner? Or that is a very obviously hypothetical question, but it's coming, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think even if they release a second Switch or whatever, they'll still support the first one for a long time because that's what Nintendo do, apart from the Wii U. I think I saw something the other day. There were some rumors that their hardware cost for next year was gigantic compared to the last couple of years. And the last, and the last time that was the case is when the new Mariko Switch variant was built, and also when the Switch Lite came out. So it's kind of at similar levels to that, having increased massively from the last couple of years. So there are, potentially new model then next year. But what that looks like is anyone's guess in terms of whether it's a Pro or a full sequel, or there've been rumors of a Pro for so long, like pretty credible ones, and then obviously all we got was an OLED Switch. I think maybe we'll hear something next year about new hardware, but I don't know if new hardware will release next year. But you just never know with Nintendo. They're quite difficult to predict.
It's weird because aren't they forecasting over 20 million units this year, or this financial year, which obviously runs into next year? The sales of that thing just aren't slowing down, which is bonkers. I think. I really want some new Switch hardware.
I think they need
preferably something a little bit more ergonomic, and also just slightly more powerful. But do they? I mean, obviously they are looking into it. They'll have a pretty sizable R&D budget. I assume that's looking at this sort of thing. But they can probably hold off because the thing's selling so well. It's not really had a price cut either since launch. It might have maybe dropped like $50 or something, but not significant. And yet it's still selling so well. So, I mean, I assume it'll just won't be a Switch Pro, it'll be a Switch 2. Not that those, I guess, are too much different, but I think it'll be just a successor to the Switch, which will likely be backwards compatible, and they'll continue to.
And most likely a handheld as well, right?
They've got to go for this hybrid model again. It'll be crazy to not.
Honestly, just for the type of games that they make and what their audience is, it kind of just fits everyone's preference, doesn't it?
Exactly. We'll see. Hopefully, I would like that to see. I don't know, because talking about Mario, do you think that maybe that's the time if they announce Mario and let's say that launches the end of 2020, but the end of 2023 just seems a little too soon for new hardware for them. I was thinking if it does launch late next year,
2024 seems a bit more realistic, doesn't it?
Yeah. But with Nintendo, you never know, they could. Poxy, I've just seen a message from Poxy saying he liked the Wii U. Unfortunately, very few people agree with you, mate. But could they go a similar route? I don't think they will, but could they just botch the marketing or the naming of it?
I think there was some comments from Reggie Fils-Aimé. So he released he released the book a while ago, and he was kind of doing like a press tour thing. Who was the former head of Nintendo America? I'm sure he mentioned about how Nintendo are fully aware of their general life cycles of having a really good console, and then basically absolutely cocking up the next one. And I think they're hyper aware of not wanting to do that with the Switch, especially given the current climate of things. They do not want to have a massive failure on their hands after the Switch and then potentially have to rethink things like the Wii U. So hopefully they've not only taken those lessons learned but actually apply them. That seems to be a common mispractice, doesn't it, where all these different businesses, no matter what you're doing, understand what they did wrong, but then don't actually do the things that they say they're going to do to fix it. So I'd like to hope that Nintendo do actually take on board these things that they've learned from the past and, as you say, have a successful Switch 2 or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I think the Switch 2 is probably going to be the hardest thing for them to fuck up, though, because they've just got to say, look, this is a Switch, but it's better. I think it'll be really difficult for them to mess this because of the humongous success that the Switch has had, and plus the relative lack of competition that they've got in that hybrid space. It would be really difficult for them to mess that up. As long as they don't call it the Switch U, I think they really can't go wrong with that. I might be wrong in saying that, but I don't see a world where they release a Switch and if they called it the Switch next, or Switch 2, or whatever they want to call it. I imagine they'll keep the Switch branding.
They're going to call it the new Switch, aren't they? Just like the 3DS.
Super Switch.
Yeah, you know what it is. I would, if they came out and called it the Super Switch, I would love that. I would love it if they called it the Super Switch. But yeah, I just find I can't see them messing that up. Not to Wii U levels, at least anyway. So, yeah, well, it'll be nice. New hardware is always cool.
Yeah.
Like whenever new hardware is announced, it's always just fun. And obviously, we've not had anything from Nintendo in a while, so that'll be the OLED was standing. So that'll be fun whenever it comes, and obviously, whenever the next Direct comes, that'll also be something to talk over, because we're going to have a lot that comes from that. Like I say, Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 will sort of that show could only have Breath of the Wild 2, and it'll be amazing. Obviously, I'm sure they'll have a lot more. So, Luke, I know Pucks is. Are you a big fan of Breath of the Wild?
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
sure if we spoke about it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite games of all time, I think.
Yeah.
Up there. Yeah, amazing. So I can't wait for the sequel. Can't wait.
Very nice. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll wrap the show up there. We're about to hit the sorry, Pox has just called it the Switch U in chat as well. I would know it is. I would like that just for the comedy value alone. Just see if they've got the balls to try that again. I suspect we might be wrong there though, Poxy. But yeah, we'll wrap up the show there. We're closing up to 2 hours, a little bit longer than our usual Sunday morning coffee shows. But I think it's been a lot of fun just chatting about games. It turned into basically a Halo Infinite check in midway through, but it was still good to have that conversation. So thank you very much to everyone in chat who's joined us. Hopefully we'll have a show on Thursday. I know Flaps really wants to talk about Souls games. We'll definitely have that conversation soon. Hopefully it'll be this week. But thank you all very, very much for joining us. Pucks, thanks for joining us today as well, mate. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Oh, no problem at all. No, I've really enjoyed it today. As I said, I've been looking forward to a show for a while. I know we've been a bit inconsistent recently, just due to general life goings on for each of us independently. But no, great to do a show. And hopefully you'll have the full GPG crew back very soon.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully Flap can make a better start of the show when he returns on Thursday. We do miss his professionalism around here. I certainly did, at the very least. Hopefully I don't make a complete arse of the outro when we get to that point as well. But yeah, and Luke, thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show today.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, and yeah, hopefully on Thursday we'll have everyone back, and we can have 2 hours talking about Souls games or something. So that'll be nice.
Yeah, riveting stuff.
Riveting.
I can't wait. So, well, yeah. Well, again, thank you all very, very much for joining. Hopefully, we'll bring you a show on Thursday. Keep an eye on the Discord. If you're not part of it, the link should be in the description. Follow us on Twitter, GPG_crew. Our other Twitter accounts should be in the description as well. If they're not, I will add them. Please follow us there. And other than that, obviously, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the weekend. Take care, everyone.